Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Highfish, aka you can just call me Jamie, and I'm the author of the Danganronpa Feed 3 fanfic Amalgamate, and I never wanted to make a call out video like this, but I saw something a few weeks ago that really bothered me. This person here, Zemaroon, saying, "Been thinking recently how quite a few artists have their work go unnoticed. It seriously hurts to see. I've seen some great artists, but their posts barely get recognition. I thought I would work on a nice Discord server for artists like this to support each other." So, that's interesting, cause, Zemaroon, this you? I don't even know why I'm asking it. It is you. And it's because of stuff like this that I was rather concerned when I saw that you wanted to start a Discord server for artists. So, Danganronpa fans, we need to talk about someone in the fandom who I consider extremely dangerous. I know Zemaroon was already called out by one of their victims a few weeks ago, and he has since issued an apology, but I want to tell my side of the story because the situation with Zem started many months before he met the person who called him out, and what I saw reveals a pattern of behavior that I find deeply concerning. First of all, I do want to issue a major content / trigger warning for this video. There'll be discussions and screenshots of an adult grooming minors, as well as screenshots that contain extreme racial slurs, bigotry, sexual harassment towards both adults and minors, death threats, mentions of unaliving, severe emotional manipulation, and overall acts of cruelty. I've censored what I can, but this one's a doozy. I will also be censoring any and all usernames in this video that aren't Zem's or my own, and eventually Nathan's because he gave me permission to include it. So, for those who missed Nathan's previous call out, I recommend you check out his document, which I have linked in the description of this video so that you can hear his side of the story from his own words. But for those of you who are entirely new to this situation, have you seen this person around? Or maybe their art? This person, who just turned 23 years old, goes by several names across Tumblr, YouTube, Instagram, etc., including Zemaroon, Zem, Mr. Kohaku, Typical Glass of Salt, Kohiro's Art, and a few others. But their art style is fairly recognizable, especially with how often they draw Kokichi. I've been wanting to speak about the situation for like 9 months now, but it's only now that I finally have enough evidence and mental stability gathered to do so. In fact, I'm hoping that getting some of this off my chest will be good for my own mental health, because this has really done a number on me. At the beginning, this video will probably seem like nothing but typical petty fandom drama, but as you can see from screenshots like this, the story is going to escalate as it progresses. I really hope you'll keep watching. I think this video is extremely important, and I want as many people as possible to see this. Also, apologies for the fact that I am reading off a Google Doc here. I really don't speak well in front of a camera. I'm an AO3 writer, not a doctor. The joke really doesn't work with my username. Forget I said that. Anyway, if there's any like strange cuts in this video and like the camera switches positions or something, it's because I'm really low on storage on my phone, and so I have to like keep filming and then like dumping it into the cloud and then filming again. So just like bear with me. Anyway, about 1.5 years ago, Zemaroon started making and sharing fan art for my fanfic Amalgamate. As an artist myself, I absolutely love receiving fan art, and I love sharing the fan art I receive with my fics readers. That's one of the reasons I started a Discord server for Amalgamate. Artists who wanted to make and share not only fan art of Amalgamate, but also just any art in general, were and still are, by the way, welcome to come hang out in my server. As of right now, the server has around 500 members, although I fear that Zem might be part of the reason the server's a little less active these days than it once was. I first began thinking something was odd when Zem started creating so much fan art for Amalgamate that whenever a new chapter was released, I had to create a whole collage just to show readers all the new art he'd made. In the Amalgamate server, Zemaroon was sharing several new illustrations a day, non-stop. It almost started to feel like Zem was doing it on purpose. like he wanted to make sure he was the only artist in the channel. But of course I couldn't prove that, so I just ignored the feeling. And for the record, it wasn't just the Amalgamate fan art channel. Zem was also posting nonstop in the other art channel. If he didn't have enough finished art, he'd flood the channel with whips instead. Still, I didn't think much about it because an active server is awesome. I love it, and I always want to encourage people to create art. But after a while, Zem slowly stopped praising or discussing other people's art. Instead, his comments were turning into this. Once or twice wouldn't have been all that unusual, but it started happening constantly. And after a while, this kind of talk escalated until the art channels morphed into a place for Zem to seemingly just vent to other artists about how frustrated their art made him. Finally, in early February, Zem admitted that something was bothering him. He said, "I would say something that is bothering me the most, but I don't want to be rude, OMFG. Don't want to be kicked, so I'm staying shut till I finish this." So as it turned out, what was bothering Zem was the fact that he didn't feel like his art was getting as much attention as it deserved. Specifically, he didn't like the fact that other artists sometimes got more reacts on their art than he did. He told me, "I've been fighting for my art to get noticed for a while, been drawing for 10 years like I said. The only thing that still makes me sad is my art getting less reactions than other people's art. I hate that I'm saying this. I'm so sorry you had to read this." Sorry, it's not funny, but just, if I don't laugh, I'm gonna start crying, so. The biggest red flag that happened during our conversation was when he admitted that for some reason he had in fact been kicked from another server over this same issue. Weird. Fortunately, as Zem became more and more comfortable in the Amalgamate server, the more he began using it as a place to vent. This wouldn't have been that much of an issue if not for the fact that A, the server does have minors in it, and B, his venting was becoming not only increasingly tone deaf, but also shockingly lacking in any empathy for others. There are like hundreds of examples I could share, but this next one here always stuck out to me, and I maybe held a grudge about this one for a while. It started when Zem shared an art whip in the server, and for some reason captioned it with, "I almost fainted doing something while away from the keyboard, but I'll keep going." People were concerned, asking if he was okay. He replied, "I'm fine now, it wasn't anything serious, but I hurt myself and, you know." They did add here at the end though, "almost fainted. Had my mom help me, so it's fine now." So yeah, as you can see from the screenshot, it really felt like Zem was trying to like guilt trip everyone into reacting to the art whip he just shared by saying he nearly fainted while working on it or something. I don't like to be very public about this, but I have like a severe fainting condition, which is why I'm sometimes seated in my cosplay videos. Videos where I'm sitting on the floor, it's because I didn't make it to the chair in time. So I tried to relate to Zem's situation to make him feel better and offer advice. But as you can see here, he not only ignored my advice and experiences and basically anything that I said, he also like insulted me. I told him I faint a lot, and in response he said like fainting was weak and pathetic. Would you all like a little bit of foreshadowing? Here is a screenshot I received just a couple weeks ago from a former friend of Zem's. Zem admits that he's never fainted while drawing. In fact, he's so proud of having never fainted, he told this person, "Maybe I'm just built different." Even though Zem claimed that he only nearly fainted that day when he shared his art in the Amalgamate server, I'm gonna go on a limb here, especially based on everything I know about Zem now, and say that it simply never happened, or was perhaps greatly exaggerated. Isn't that fun? The incident from February that's been bothering me all year, yeah, it just never happened. as I'm just lied for sympathy. It's a bit of pattern with him. Because yeah, this kind of thing began happening every day. Zem would vent and fish for sympathy and attention, but give none in return. And if someone else needed to vent or talk about something in their own life, Zem would immediately twist it into a conversation about himself. I actually don't really like vent channels in Discord servers. I think they invite the opportunity for a ton of unnecessary drama. However, at some point in all of this, someone who I later found out is pretty much Zem's like BFF right now, suggested I make a vent channel. And while I was still feeling pretty opposed to the idea, I was also kind of desperate to shove Zem's constant whining off into a little corner where he might bother less people. So yeah, I made a vent channel. And oh boy, did Zem use it. He basically lived there. And the thing he most liked to complain about in the channel was this Kokichi figurine that he wanted. You know, I meant to like grab it before I started filming and I forgot. Hold on. It's so hard to move in this cosplay. You know, this one, so cute. I love this figurine so much. Pat, pat. He's just gonna chill over here now. Yeah, Zem really hated the fact that he didn't have one of these. And more than that, he really hated his parents for not getting it for him. Here's an example where Zem says, "It's just all up to my dad. All I wanted was one effing figure and he couldn't even understand that. I got a tablet I didn't even want for my birthday." Yeah, you heard that right. Zem hated his dad because he got him a drawing tablet. This guy who's like obsessed with drawing was upset because his dad got him an entire drawing tablet. The humanity. And then it got even weirder. Zemaroon not only talking nonstop about this figurine, but even going so far as to say he no longer wished to live because he didn't have this figurine. It was almost like he was trying to seem desperate enough that someone would help him out with this no Kokichi figurine situation. In fact, he even mentions here in early March that he'd been trying really hard to get other people to buy it for him. 3 people in total at the time. And oh hey, look, here he is literally that same day sharing the listing in my server while talking about how cruel life is and how unhappy he is not to have this figurine. Low-key almost 100%. Low-key almost 100%. That's quite the statement. God, the dramatics, right? I'm sorry if I sound a little heated, but look at this. The guilt tripping finally worked. And someone in my server said, "I wish I had a credit card and knew where to send the order. I'd buy you a plushie or the figurine." Now, for those of you who have read Nathan's document, no, the username I censored here is not Nathan. However, here's another bit of foreshadowing. The person Zem was talking to here is 14. I love the part at the end there where Zemaroon guilt trips the 14-year-old for being unable to buy an adult's very expensive item. No, I don't love that. It's filling me with rage. Please do not mistake my laughter throughout this video for me actually finding any of this funny. This is me trying to control myself. But yeah, I know this all looks really sketchy already, but I first truly began to realize that we had a serious problem when Zem began not only using the Amalgamate server to vent, he also began taking out his anger on the other server members. Remember, this is not an 18+ server. Adult content is prohibited, and there are minors in my server. It had never been a problem before. At the time all this was happening, Zem was 22 years old, and yet this is how an adult was speaking to possible minors in my server. Reading stuff like this, like, genuinely, like, breaks my heart. Seeing Zem, like, snapping at kids in my server brings out, like, a deep primal anger in me. So again, excuse the laughter. It's genuinely me trying to, like, stay calm. And when I found that screenshot, I also came across this lovely gem from the same day. Someone says to Zem, "Why is your art so good?" And Zem replies, "You're probably one of the few people that actually acknowledge how good my art is, so thanks for that." Doesn't Zem have such a lovely attitude? And the thing is, like, Zem would say things like this, but then immediately flip the narrative again Like in this instance, someone made some art for Zem. I didn't have any drawing ideas, lol. Zem, I took inspo of your last drawing. I hope you don't mind. Zem replies, you did it way better than me and is so mid it hurts. And the other person, M, understandably reacts, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make you some fan art. Yeah. As you can see, he censored this person's username because we're going to call them M because they're going to come up a lot. The reason being that Zem started taking issue with M's presence in the server. And at first, like, I could maybe like understand it because M hadn't caught up on Amalgamate yet and had a somewhat more, let's say, like nuanced opinion of Kokichi, which is fine. But you know, that can cause like tension in a server about a fanfic that's very Kokichi centric. Most people reading Amalgamate are Kokichi fans. However, Zem's dislike towards M started to evolve into something that felt not only aggressive, but downright irrational. For example, one day when Zem knew I was working in the artist alley at an extremely busy convention in another state with very little access to my phone, he became furious with M because they made a hydraulic press joke about Kokichi, which then turned into a thread with multiple server members also making various press puns and jokes about Kokichi. And honestly, the one time I glanced at my phone while I was working at the show and I saw that thread, I thought it was hilarious. Like, I really needed to pick me up that day. Zem, however, did not find it hilarious, and despite knowing that I was, again, currently working at a convention, he wanted to make sure I knew that he was very displeased. I strongly encourage you to like pause and read through this whole thing, because I mean, can you believe this? When I didn't reply within 30 minutes, Zem actually kept nagging me. And again, I was working in public in another state on no sleep. I had literally pulled an all-nighter and then drove 4 hours to the show and had said so, like, in the server. But apparently Kokichi jokes were a far more pressing issue. I'm sorry, kid, I had to. I actually got like so overwhelmed that I lost my temper and tried to throw my phone. A friend at the table next to me had to like stop me from causing property damage and calm me down. I was more or less calm. As diplomatically as I could, I told Zem that I thought M and the others did nothing wrong. But unfortunately, that didn't put an end to this bizarre one-sided feud that Zemaroon had with M. And the next day, while I was still working at the Comic-Con, I got so fed up, I straight up told Zem to stop being so aggressive towards M. But unfortunately, Zem did not try to avoid talking to them like he said. Heaven forbid. No, Zemaroon continued to pick fights with M, and it wasn't just M, by the way. Zem did this with everyone, and his toxicity was starting to become like really genuinely harmful. For example, someone in the server told us they had tickets to go to some upcoming concerts. Coincidentally, I had tickets to go see Kim Dracula in concert that night. I was so excited. Zem, however, was not happy to see two other people in the server being happy. I cropped out parts of this conversation because it was just like a big mess with a lot of people talking. But as you can see here, Zem made the entire situation about himself and his misery instead of being happy for anyone else. Yeah, at the end here, when no one's paying him enough attention, I guess, about how sad he is that he didn't get to see the gorillas, he just says, I'm just gonna go be sad now in the vent channel like always, I guess. And off to the vent channel he did go. Some of the things he said there have since been deleted, but at the time he actually threatened to unalive himself because other people were going to concerts and being happy, I guess. A thing he just couldn't currently do. While working on the script for this call out video, I did go and confirm that this happened with the other person from the server, just to make sure I wasn't like misremembering anything. So yeah, Zem literally told us he was going to the vent channel because he wanted us to know that our happiness had triggered him into no longer wanting to be alive. And like, it really messed us up. I don't want to share too many personal details, but like, the person I was DMing here was not okay after this happened, and neither was I A few hours after this happened, I had to go out of my way to just block the whole incident from my mind all night, or else my entire concert experience would have been ruined. Zem's use of the vent channel became more and more irrational until eventually the S hit the fan. It all started when Zem told us he was struggling to get commissions. So some of the artists in the server began offering advice. For example, this person said, portfolio diversity. You often draw Kokichi and dragon versions of Kokichi, specifically headshots. Drawing an array of different characters and designs gives people the opportunity to see if what they want will work in your art style, which to any artists who are watching this, that's really, really good advice. But for whatever reason, all the advice Zem was given was taken as an insult, which turned into a multi-hour meltdown in which Zem began fighting with everyone in the server who tried to speak to him. I'm obviously not going to share the entire meltdown from that day because there are like hundreds of comments involved. But in response to the advice about portfolio diversity, Zemaroon shared a bunch of his illustrations and said, "Are these not different and good enough?" It angers me when people say I can only draw Kokichi and my dragon. It's what makes me happy, sure, but I can draw other stuff as well. If I hear one more person say all you do is draw Kokichi, it's what I'm doing at the moment. So another person suggested you could use Kokichi as a dummy for practicing stuff such as poses, since you're most comfortable drawing him, which again, to any artist watching this, it's really, really good advice. Zem did not find this to be good advice. In response to this, Zem said, "I'm sick and tired of people assuming I can only draw Kokichi." As the argument progressed, someone else said, "It's definitely a lot of busts and headshots. I understand your frustration, but if you want to open commissions, you're going to have to be able to take gentle criticism." Zem replies, "I know, I'm literally trying to make more half-body. Jesus Christ. Like, seriously, I actually tried my best here, whatever." Someone else said, "This is what I'm saying, bro. Anytime anyone offers criticism to help with your problem of not getting commissions, you act like they're personally insulting you." And look, I get it. I work as an artist for a living. And yeah, it can be kind of devastating when you're trying so hard to reach out to get work and nobody's reaching back. But all anyone was suggesting to Zem was that he diversify his portfolio. Nobody told him to stop drawing or to stop drawing Kokichi. They just told him to also draw things other than Kokichi and his dragon and bust and headshots. Very reasonable advice that was presented calmly and gently. Still trying to get through to Zem, someone told him he was going to need to learn how to handle suggestions and criticism, to which Zem replied, "Maybe I'll just leave one day then, since everyone thinks I'm sensitive." At this point, it was obvious that things were spinning out of control, and eventually, Zem says, "It seems literally no one wants me here. I don't want to be that sensitive. My friends are telling me to stop drawing what I like and what helps me de-stress. I've had traumatic experiences in my life, including ones with a hospital and trigger warning PDF files, grooming when I was 14 to 16 years old. I just wish people would understand why I draw what I want." To which someone understandably replies, "I understand why you draw what you want. We're not saying you shouldn't." People, my dear viewers, I want you to keep in mind that comment there that Zem said about grooming, because it will become very, I don't know, ironic later. Ugh, I hate this. I hate this so much. So, for nearly an hour, Zem had dozens of people trying to be as polite and gentle and kind as possible. We'd all watched his behavior escalate for honestly months, but especially the weeks leading up to this. So we told him to take a break and that we'd welcome him back once he was feeling better. Unfortunately, this is where the story starts to take a very dark turn. This is the moment a Discord spat spirals into months of shockingly horrific behavior. So again, please heed the warnings I shared at the beginning of the video. If your mental health will be negatively affected by discussions of children being groomed, racial slurs, sexual harassment, assault, etc., please do not proceed. Part of the reason I'm making this call-out post is to help some of Zem's victims heal and I don't want this post to cause any further trauma for anyone. Things aren't about to get bad like immediately, but this is like the turning point in the story. So at this point in the Amalgamate server's vent channel, someone I wasn't expecting to see shows up. Now, just so you're all aware, I've been working on this call out with this person, and they've asked me to refer to them as either Nathan or Kokichi? I'll go with Nathan because it's easier to say. So, Nathan appeared in the channel and said, Zem is currently writing what they are thinking about this whole situation. They'll get back to you shortly. Would y'all be okay with Zem sending an apology, or y'all just want to DM them? They told me that they are kind of scared about people messaging them. What Nathan was saying here was baffling to me. I want to remind you all that at the time this was all going down, Zem was 22 years old. I didn't know Nathan's exact age at the time, but based on many context clues, I was pretty sure they were not only a minor, but a very young minor. I now know that at the time, Nathan was 13. So yeah, I was extremely confused by Nathan suddenly speaking on Zem's behalf, because not only did I have no clue that the two of them were even acquainted or speaking to each other outside the server, I had no clue why a 13-year-old would be speaking on behalf of an adult in the first place. All I knew was that alarm bells were going off in my head. So, finally, we received this wall of text that was, according to Nathan, Zem's apology to the server. I am definitely not going to read all of this, so I encourage you to pause and read this for yourself. I did highlight a few just key points here. Zem says, the moment more people joined the conversation, the more trapped I felt. It was like I was being literally backed into a corner like a wild animal. The moment people dogpiled onto me and told me to calm down, I felt like I was being attacked. Even though Zem aired this message to a basically public server with 500 people, I still decided to censor a few parts that seemed too personal. But yeah, as you can see, Zemaroon did not particularly apologize here. It was more like he accused the server of just ganging up on him. The whole message came across as a very, look what you made me do kind of apology. Nothing but excuses, personal monologues, no accountability, just basically anything other than a real apology. And everyone told him so. I mean, they all tried to be nice and respectful about it, but people in the server made it clear that Zem's apology really wasn't very thoughtful. I'll read just a few snippets as examples. But yeah, you can pause and read all the text if you'd like. Let's see, this person said, this is all out of concern and worry, but this doesn't feel like an apology. It feels like a way to deflect the problems a bit onto your current situation. I don't think it's appropriate to call this an apology when it feels like blame is being shifted onto us. They were all just trying to help. With all that said, I really want to emphasize that I understand where you're coming from and how this feels, but that accountability is also needed. This person said, Zem, the apology is greatly appreciated. I can tell you that no one was actively trying to get you to leave the server. A bad period in your life can explain your mind making everything seem worse than it is, but it's important for you to be aware of that so you know when it's happening and then can manage it. This person added, the apology isn't really an apology. Obviously what you're going through is unfortunate and I'm sorry for you. I don't believe any person deserves grievous circumstances, but you took it out on people you asked to give you advice. And it wasn't fair to any of those people. Your current health is an explanation. It is not an excuse for those things. No one here wants you to leave, nor do they want you to spiral, and you should internalize that. This next person also wanted to make it clear that, yeah, Zem has been constantly taking out his emotions on everyone. They told him, Zem, I don't know if you do this intentionally, but it's common for you to guilt trip people. You express your emotions in a way that is just too extreme. Even now, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells telling you this, because you made me feel like if I called you out on some of your unpleasant behaviors, then that'd make me another betrayal. You're 22 years old. The other day, you spammed me desperately because I was talking with other people and made me feel bad for it too. Back to being alone. Oh, I just won't interact on the server anymore. I'm talking about these kinds of behaviors. They're harmful to others, and every time someone tries to bring it up, you throw a tantrum and get too defensive over it. If you want to do better, then do it. Don't just leave it as a thought. This person added, I must say the negativity around any another art has been a bit of a downer. Boy, yeah, I'll say. I completely agreed with what everyone was saying, and I made that very clear with my own wall of text. Two can play at this game. Yeah, as you can see here, I did specifically say, Zem, nobody here wants you to leave, but even though I told him that, Zem's response was to leave. And I want to make that clear because it'll come up later. I did not kick or ban Zem. He left entirely on his own. And unfortunately, he took someone else with him. Nathan vanished too. I actually didn't even realize it at first because I was still just like swept up in my frustrations with Zem. But another server member pointed out to me privately that Nathan had left, and we were very confused and worried. The server member said, yeah, but Zem is 22. That's what I'm worried about. I hope they, meaning Nathan, aren't too young because they don't need that. And yeah, I agreed. I said, I'm pretty sure Nathan is a minor. There's no way he's also 22. I was kind of surprised they were speaking for Zem because they're so young. It made me wonder why they were DMing in the first place. I assume Nathan was just checking up on Zem to see how they were doing, but whatever Zem said, it turned Nathan against the server in the end. I hope eventually Nathan will be able to understand why this happened. It's sad that they felt they had to leave a space that meant so much to them. After Zem and Nathan left, the vent channel was suddenly flooded with server members explaining just how badly Zem had hurt them over the past few months. Artists had stopped wanting to share art. People who used to casually hang out in the server no longer felt safe talking. Here are a few examples. This person told us, seeing how Zem talked to some of you made me kind of upset. I just hope Zem gets the help he needs. This person said, I hope he takes this time for his mental health. Made me feel like garbage for sharing my art. This person said, Zem's behavior was originally deterred me from speaking in the server, actually. He needs to find a safe space somewhere that isn't with a bunch of strangers and minors. Yeah, that's why I'm making this video. This person added another story saying, I said I wanted to draw something inspired by his scenario art of if Kaito got executed, his status changed to have fun drawing my art or something like that. Lovely. At one point, Zem even confessed privately to a server member that he saw the art channels as a competition. So, Zem was gone, Nathan was gone, and after a full day of everyone airing their many grievances about Zem, we decided to stop talking about him, or else it really would be considered dogpiling. And I wish that had been the end of it. But then, a member of the server, we'll call them S, told us Zem had just invited them to join a private server with him. This set off more alarm bells in my head. Not only because S was a minor, just like Nathan, they were also someone who had defended Zem in opposition to everyone else on many occasions. In fact, remember that 14-year-old who said they wished they could buy Zem that Kokichi figurine? Yeah, that was S. So yeah, something about this didn't feel right. And we strongly discouraged S from joining Zem's private server. Next day, however, S showed us a screenshot in which Zem once again invited them to the server. And as you can see, when S said no, Zem told them, I was gonna say I trust you, but I DK now. At this point, my blood was starting to boil. Up until that moment, I was angry and frustrated with Zem, but I still wished him well and hoped that ultimately he'd be okay. You know, people can go through bad patches in their life, mental health crises can occur, people who are going through something difficult can lash out. It doesn't mean they'll remain hostile forever. It certainly doesn't mean they won't be deserving of kindness and forgiveness later. I felt no ill will towards them, just, worry, especially for Nathan. But now, I was angry. I had no idea what was going on with Nathan, and a 22-year-old Zem was seemingly trying to lure another minor who was sympathetic towards him into a private server. This did not feel right, but I had no way to prove any of my suspicions. All I had was a growing feeling of fear in my gut that wouldn't go away. Luckily, with Zem gone, I will say the server immediately started thriving again. It felt like a curse had been lifted. It was so amazing to see everyone turning back into their old selves again, laughing and carefree and having a good time. And for weeks, everything was great. And not once did anyone ever mention Zem. Ever. And that's not an exaggeration. I combed through months of content while working on this call out video. Not one person ever mentioned Zem. No gossip, no drama, not even an offhand comment or any mention. The server was just as peaceful as it had always been before Zem showed up. So it was rather strange when a newcomer in the server, we'll call them F, started asking over and over to become a mod. This was very odd to me because F had only been in the server for a few weeks and there didn't appear to be any need for a mod. As an admin, I'm active in the server daily, check up on it constantly even while I'm working. There are also 2 other admins, which became 3 not long after this. Not to mention there's just like no drama in the server at all. We're like the chillest server ever. Zem was just a one-off bad thing that happened. So why was F constantly asking to become a mod? Then F came to inform me that something was going on with Zem. Yay. According to them, over on Tumblr, Zemaroon was being harassed by Anons from the Amalgamate server, and F wanted me to stop them. I was extremely confused because A, how is it even possible to know that literal Anons are from the Amalgamate server? And B, why would I have the power to intervene in a situation involving Anons on Tumblr? The Amalgamate Tumblr blog was like barely a month old at the time that this was happening. So I started to suspect that F wanted to become a mod in the Amalgamate server specifically because of what was happening on Tumblr. So I simply confronted them and asked for the truth. And as it turned out, yes, my suspicions were absolutely correct. Yeah, so I have to wonder though, is the situation with them part of the reason you want to be a moderator on the server? It's part of it, and also I noticed the server can sometimes be a bit chaotic and broke a few rules that I see on your rules list. I'll send you screenshots that Zem sent me. So okay, let's see what the Tumblr Anons had to say. Stop trauma dumping on minors, weirdo. Wow, so cool. Zemaroon venting on minors knowing very darn well that traumatizes them and is a gateway to them getting groomed. Sorry, I really should have made that screenshot bigger. It was really hard to read for me. Yeah, F suggested that I make an announcement on the server, and also told me if I become one of your mods, one of the things I suggest is making a punishment system, a 3-strike system depending on the severity of the offense, so that way they don't just get a slap on the wrist all the time. I gotta be honest, I had no clue what F was even talking about here. No one had broken any rules in the server. There was no chaos. I couldn't even remember the last time I'd seen anyone even argue like jokingly. This was really weird to me. So someone on Tumblr was accusing Zem of trauma dumping on minors, and I was being told to stop them. But I couldn't disagree with what the Anon was saying, right? Because Zem was absolutely trauma dumping on minors. He had been for months. I was starting to feel like I was in a no-win situation. I was being asked to rein in Amalgamate fans outside my server without any proof that these Anons even were Amalgamate fans from my server. And worst of all, I was being asked to stop the Anons from making accusations against Zem that I agreed with. I didn't want to go so far as to accuse Zem of grooming without any proof, but twice now, he'd invited very young minors who sympathized with him to join him in a private server. So, frustrated and angry, I explained my position privately to a friend from the server. I said, not gonna lie, this is not the harassment I expected to see. I assumed Zem was getting bullied, but all I'm seeing are 2 incidents of Anons who could have come from anywhere, because Zem has openly stated many times that he's got drama on multiple servers about something I think is actually a pretty valid concern. Zem repeatedly ignored requests to not talk about certain topics in front of minors, and even went so far as to run off with a child on the server and send them to do his bidding. Like, to which the other person replied, oh, if they have drama on multiple servers, then yeah, you can't instantly assume it's the Amalgamate server. Plus, TBH, we all stopped talking about Zem a while ago. I want to reiterate that Zem was a self-admitted repeat offender. I even showed an example earlier in this video where he said himself that he had been kicked from other servers before Amalgamate. In fact, here's a screenshot someone sent me while I was working on this video. This was from back when Zem was still in the Amalgamate server. So, according to Zemaroon himself, I was recently invited to a Discord server that had a safe environment, and I thought everyone was chill. Yet when I accidentally said something that might have been rude or offensive, I thought I could apologize and make up for it. They gave me a second chance. Everything was fine for 2 days, but this morning I wake up to getting kicked without an explanation. Kind of messed up. I get a second chance, and 2 days later I get thrown out like trash. Contacted someone who was in the server. Still waiting for a reply. Someone get this guy a manager? So yeah, he was in some kind of, according to him, safe server, violated that safety, and got kicked. Said so himself. I would love to know what actually happened here. So, I decided that this was just where I drew the line in the sand. And I did tell a couple people in private how I felt about this. Right here I said, get a very uncomfortable feeling over the fact that F thinks it's harassment to tell Zem to stop trauma dumping on minors. I'm not saying that anything Zem's doing is wrong, because I have no clue what these anons are actually referring to. I'm just saying that I'm personally having major alarm bells go off when an adult runs off with a child from the server and is out there somewhere doing something that's upset a minor enough to bring up the word grooming. I was not going to waver on my morals about this. I was not going to defend someone I very strongly suspected was actually being inappropriate with minors. Sure, I couldn't prove it. But Zem had also given me absolutely no reason to defend him. He'd caused months of emotional damage for so many people that I cared about, and now he wanted me to swoop in and save him over on a different app where I had no power and no proof that the anons involved were even from my server. So I told myself that no, I was not going to get involved in this. I was not going to defend someone I didn't feel deserved defending. But unfortunately, this still wasn't the end of it. For a couple weeks, F continued to reach out to me with screenshots showing them being harassed by anons. They even told me they thought this was cyberbullying, wanted me to take action against this as a criminal offense. And the timing of all of this was very unfortunate because I was dealing with a medical emergency in private. I actually haven't spoken about this anywhere before. In fact, I didn't even tell my parents and they still don't know. But the thing is, I was extremely sick during my conversations with F. My fainting issues were getting really bad, which is why there was a period of time where I was like mostly filming cosplay videos on the floor. During this time, my health deteriorated. That is a hard word to say. So suddenly, doctors told me I might be bleeding internally and that I might only have a few days left if we didn't figure out what was wrong. So there were times when I was trying to respond to F about the Zem situation while sitting in waiting rooms far from home in between tests, and I was just like too sick to even fully process any of it. I was so tired, y'all. I'd been making cosplay content while collapsed on the floor, and I was trying to keep up appearances of being totally fine on social media, all while being told I was somehow in the wrong for not defending someone I suspected was being inappropriate with minors. I was really reaching the limit of how much I could deal with. And that's when I suddenly started receiving DMs from Nathan. And it was about the same issue. Nathan said, "Hey Jamie, I would just like to talk about something that has gotten a bit out of hand. I'm not making assumptions, but they think that these messages are coming from the server. The person I'm talking about is Zem. I know there was some drama between them in the vent channel with a lot of other people. After that whole situation, they have been harassed over what happened in the server. They have received hate comments on Tumblr about it. This has also led to them having multiple panic attacks and then becoming more furious at the people harassing them. I would just like to say that if you can, please bring this attention to your server about this whole situation. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just trying to help make the situation go away so everything can go back to normal. Thank you." This was extremely upsetting to me. Like, F was an adult like me, but Nathan was 13. Why was a 13-year-old being sent into my DMs to speak on behalf of Zem? Zemaroon could have DM'd me at any time. He wasn't blocked. Why was there a child in my DMs speaking for him? I was relieved to see Nathan, but devastated to see Nathan talking like this. Worst of all, Nathan mentioned how furious all of this was making Zem, and I began to wonder, like, what was Zem doing or saying around Nathan that was making this child so hyper aware of how angry Zem is? So I just told Nathan exactly what I told F, that we had no proof that the Anons were from the Amalgamate server and that there wasn't much I could do. So at that point, Nathan finally just came out and said Zem was convinced that at least one of the Anons was M. Yeah, again with the M fight. Honestly, this pissed me off. It was very possible that the Anon was M, but M hadn't been active in the Amalgamate server for like at least a month. I hadn't seen them or heard a word from them whatsoever. Zem was angry at a literal child with no proof that the child had even done anything wrong, and somehow I was supposed to use Discord to put a stop to a situation on Tumblr? Like, I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. Like, seriously, I was super sick and I was like possibly bleeding to death internally. So, like, I didn't really have the mental real estate left to care about whether or not someone who'd seriously hurt a lot of people was now getting his feelings hurt over on Tumblr. Like, honestly, if Zem wanted people to stop accusing him of grooming minors, maybe stop sending minors into the DMs of other adults to speak on your behalf. But I don't know, just a suggestion. But I really didn't want to send Nathan back to a possibly volatile Zem empty-handed, because I know people like Zem lash out at everyone around them when they're upset. So I sent Nathan a Tumblr post with links and explanations about how to make reports against harassment. Of course, I knew it was futile because Zem never wants solutions, he just wants to complain. But at the very least, I could say that I tried to give him the ability to take action. Nathan also expressed frustration with me because I had yet to make any announcements on the Discord about them being bullied. My failure to do that was in part due to me being too sick to remember to do that kind of thing, but also I didn't want to. The server was healing now that Zem was gone, but I was sick and exhausted and I really wanted to stop being bothered about all of this. So I pinged my entire server with an anti-bullying announcement, and with that, I moved on. Because I also had something else a few weeks later that I really needed to work on and recover for, which was Momocon 2024 in Atlanta, Georgia. This was going to be one of the most important events of my life. For those who don't know, my fanfic Amalgamate has an amazing audio project, which I've linked in the description of this video. Melody Snowflake from Singapore and Fire Art from Germany started the project in order to create a fully voice-acted edition of Amalgamate. This has been going on for years, and it's one of the most wonderful and magical things to come from my fic. Momocon 2024 was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because, as it turned out, Melody and Fire would both be flying all the way to the United States for the show. So I decided to make the road trip to Momocon too. It's like a 16-hour drive for me. And that led to our Kokichi VA, Ivan Dubs, also deciding to fly in for the show. We planned to release a new chapter of the audio project while we were there and live stream with viewers afterwards, and I even wrote a 10,000 word Amalgamate short story just so I could like make a huge announcement on AO3 and let fans know we'd be at Momocon and they could come meet us. I'd never even been to Georgia before, and I was going to bring like 4 different elaborate cosplays with me. I was still kind of sick, but I was excited, you know? I didn't know, however, was that behind the scenes, Zem was watching. As per Zem's usual pattern of behavior, seeing other people happy and excited to do things he doesn't get to do means he must sabotage everyone else at all costs. So, on the 3rd day of Momocon, which was a Sunday, it was our big day as far as Amalgamate's concerned. I'd already run into fans of the fic the previous 2 days, and I was having an amazing time. I was in my Junko Enoshima cosplay that day, actually. Yes, this one. And I was extra excited because Melody was going to be on stage performing Owl House fan songs. I couldn't wait to hear her singing live. However, while I was sitting in the audience during her show, I started receiving DMs from a new person. We'll call them V. According to these DMs, there were people on Tumblr once again accusing Zem of grooming minors. The fun ever stop? Yeah, once again, my server was being accused of causing it. Not included in the screenshot is V telling me what they believe to be the name of the Tumblr user who was harassing Zem, and honestly, I didn't recognize the name. Was it someone from my server? Maybe? But why does it even matter at this point? Reading what the supposed harasser said here, I agreed with them. Zem was absolutely 100% trauma dumping on minors, and he absolutely 100% was inviting minors into private servers, most likely to continue trauma dumping on them. I felt like I was like going completely insane. I watched Zem emotionally torment both adults and children for months. I watched previously talkative people go silent. I watched people lose the will to create or share art. I watched Zem talk about highly inappropriate topics so he could trauma dump in some supposedly safe space where there were minors, and he repeatedly ignored requests to stop doing so. Was I in some kind of like backwards, bizarre universe where the toxic and emotionally manipulative person was the good guy, and somehow I was the bad guy because I wasn't telling people to stop calling Zem out for doing the bad thing he was literally and openly doing? What the hell? I'm gonna be real here, like something in me really started to break down during that exchange with V. Like little cracks started forming inside me. I was sitting there in my Junko Enoshima cosplay, trying to keep the smile on my face while my friend Melody from Singapore sang songs, and I mentally prepared myself for the new Amalgamate audio chapter of the live stream that night. But like, something just felt wrong now. I was on no sleep and still recovering from a lengthy illness. I'd spent weeks preparing for this day, including writing a 10,000 word fanfic. I couldn't shake this weird feeling of wrongness. Someone who had emotionally harmed me and who I believed might still be hurting other people was somehow amassing a following that believed he was right in all of this. Was I wrong? Was I the bad guy here? Was I promoting a culture of bullying in the Danganronpa fandom by not standing up for someone who had hurt people? I don't know how else to describe it, but it was like this feeling of like desolation started to open up inside me. I remember an Amalgamate fan came up to me after Melody's show was over and they were so excited, but I remember stammering out like half-finished sentences trying to get my brain to start working when all I really wanted to do was cry. Yeah, this was a once-in-a-lifetime event for me, and I wanted to cry. But I carried on with my day. I was nervous but excited for the live streams, and by 6 p.m. Atlanta time, I was sitting in a hotel room with Melody, Fire, and Ivan, ready to hear the new chapter of the audio project for the very first time. And I was in the room with the editors and some of the VAs right there in the room with me. And then, 30 minutes before we were scheduled to start, my phone buzzed again. And it was Nathan telling me that Zem was still being harassed and that I wasn't doing enough to stop it. And with that, something inside me just broke completely. I was already so overwhelmed and I felt like I was going crazy. Nathan was trying to tell me that the grooming accusations against Zem were baseless, but Nathan was at this point 14 and in my DMs speaking on behalf of a 22-year-old. I was so worried about Nathan and he was so angry with me. Back in the server, Nathan had been so happy. He'd actually told me back in early March that Amalgamate and the server had changed his life. He told me everyone there was so sweet and supportive and it helped him get over his fear of talking to people. He told me he'd made friends and now he'd left the server with Zem and he seemingly hated me. And I had no idea why any of this was even happening. And it's like there was nothing I could do but just shove all the sadness down and do what I always do when I'm in cosplay. Swallow away any pain or sickness that I'm feeling and plaster on, sometimes literally, a big smile on my face. The show must go on. I literally didn't let on to Melody, Fire, or Ivan that any of this was happening or that anything was amiss. We aired the new episode of the audio project and we live streamed with Amalgamate fans for nearly 90 minutes, and I made sure that nobody knew how devastated I was feeling. The next day, however, my facade did finally crack, and eventually I ended up sitting with Melody and Fire at an Airbnb and like in tears. I told them what was going on, and Melody started texting with V, who said I'd banned Zem from the server. Like, Once again, I was just left utterly confused as to where any of this was coming from. I'd done no such thing. Zem wasn't kicked or banned, he just left. I'd done absolutely nothing to him. He could have DM'd me at any time, rejoined the server at any time, literally anything other than sending both adults and minors into my DMs to yell at me. For some reason, the phrase that just kept pouring out of my mouth in front of Melody and Fire was, like, nothing I do will ever be enough. I'd never be able to write enough words, write a good enough fic, make good enough art, make good enough content, never be able to keep up with anything or keep everything together, never be able to be a good enough friend or mentor. Clearly, I'd never be able to help enough people or be this community leader that I was supposed to be. I was just like a failure in every way I could think of. So I just gave up. I never even replied to Nathan's DM during or after Momocon. I couldn't. I don't know. I just was like defeated. There's nothing more I could do or say. This had been going on for months. I truly believed that Zem was causing Nathan some kind of harm and was possibly harming others, but I had no proof. And everyone seemed to be on Zem's side after all this. Like, none of it made any sense. Months passed, but my mental health, which has never at any point in my life been very good, never seemed to really recover after that. Maybe all the pressure finally got to me. Maybe I was finally too overwhelmed. Whatever it was, I just couldn't seem to function anymore. My attempts at writing and editing Amalgamate were disjointed and lackluster. Scenes that were meant to be hopeful would dissolve into bleak, just heartless misery. However, in the midst of all of this, something happened that was, as I'll explain later, actually very bad. But in the moment, it was actually extremely funny. A little levity here for a moment. So Zem actually reappeared in the server on a random day in July, and without a word, shared some weird gif of the Kokichi figurine. Except it was like all blinged out and glittering with the words "kiss me" emblazoned across it. I wish I had a screenshot of it, but unfortunately I think it has long since been deleted. It really seemed like Zem thought this was some big like entrance, like a Disney villain, like throwing open the front door, the big smirk on their face, awaiting the gasps of horror. Except the gasps never came. I truly believe to this day that Zem has no comprehension of just how much we did not think about his existence in any capacity whatsoever. As you'll see later, we were on Zem's mind 24/7, but us, the Amalgamate server, we didn't think about him at all. So yeah, no one cared. The minor I mentioned earlier, S, was the only person to react with an "oh, it's you." And to be honest, that actually made me really angry because S was really shaken up by the whole Zem situation, especially after he tried, inviting them into a private server. So I barged into the channel and diffused the situation by pretending Zem wasn't there and talking about something totally unrelated, which worked. We all moved on and no one acknowledged Zemaroon's stupid glitter bomb gif. And that must have enraged Zem because an hour later, he finally blocked me. Here's me on July 8th DMing someone and saying, LMAO, I'm pretty sure Zem's already left the server and may have blocked me? I can't see their profile anymore. Not that I give a F. I'd never been blocked before that I knew of, nor had I ever blocked anyone else, so I wasn't even sure what I was seeing at first. Anyway, the reason I circled the date here is because along with Zem falsely claiming I banned him from the server, I've also heard that lately he's claiming I was the one who blocked him, which is just false. Zem blocked me because I didn't give him any attention, I guess. Sorry, it was just like some villain entrance that was. That was some serious Tinkerbell BS. Behind the scenes, however, whatever transpired that day appeared to be one of the last straws for Zem's inner circle because a couple weeks later, both F and Nathan suddenly DM'd me with extremely heartfelt apologies, which took me completely by surprise. I don't want to share screenshots of their apologies because they felt like very personal, but to summarize, F told me Zem had manipulated them into getting involved in drama they did not want to be involved in, and in doing so had caused them a lot of emotional harm. F told me they'd finally reached a breaking point where they just had to block Zem for the sake of their own mental health. I was shocked to see this message from F, but also relieved to see that F had escaped this awful situation. I happily welcomed them back with no hard feelings, and yeah, they've been back in the server ever since. We all still talk. If you're watching this, F, you're great. Seriously, no hard feelings. The only person I'm mad at is Zem. Now, Nathan had also sent me a deeply sincere and heartfelt apology, but the experiences he shared were much darker. He told me Zem had also manipulated him into being involved in drama against his will. According to Nathan, he was, and I quote, pressured and forced to defend Zem and also, quote, couldn't really say no, end quote, to the things that Zem was coercing him into doing. I was mortified to hear all of this, but I was also just so relieved to see Nathan. Even though he told me he was only there to apologize and not to ask for forgiveness, I told him there was nothing to forgive and he'd done nothing wrong. At no point had I ever been angry with him or F or anyone else who was involved. I was only angry at Zem, the manipulator. I made sure Nathan knew he was also welcome to join the server and hang out with all of us again, but at the time, Nathan said he was afraid to do that because, as it turned out, Zem was already in the server using an alt account. I wish I could say I was surprised, but by that point, there wasn't any low Zem could sink to that would surprise me. So I swiftly banned Zem from the server. For real this time. Now that I could finally get some answers that could stitch up some of the strange gaps in what happened the past few months, I asked Nathan about the time Zem showed up using his main account and shared that odd glitter gif of the Kokichi figurine. And Nathan told me that what we'd all witnessed that day was Zem's pitiful attempt at raiding the Amalgamate server. Nathan kindly explained the situation to me. I'll give you tons of context for that image. I DK if you know this, but before that whole image, Zem actually DM'd me first and I didn't know who Zem was. All he asked me was about my banner and asked if I was Kokichi. I still can't pronounce it. My Tumblr, and I replied yes. After a while of talking, they said they were typical glass assault, Zem's main Tumblr account that is now abandoned. So I started freaking out because I really liked their content. A few months passed and they started coming to me for venting. And started to grow closer to me. One day I kind of got really sick of them being really effing sad over that figure, so I offered to pay for it. Zem declined at first, but after a few weeks they finally said yes and gave me their address so I can ship it to them. So I was the one who bought them that Kokichi figure in the Kiss Me photo. It cost around 138 bucks, and the reasoning on why they sent that photo in the first place was to troll with the server. I can't even begin to tell you how angry this made me. Zem, who was 22, accepted a Kokichi figurine, which was shipped internationally, by the way, from a 14-year-old. And then Zem used that figurine to taunt the Amalgamate server like it was some kind of trophy he'd won. I found out later that Zem had received even more gifts than just the Kokichi figurine from Nathan, so this was just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, here is a screenshot of the total cost breakdown that Nathan typed up. Capybara keychain, Kokichi pin, Kokichi phone case, Pikachu plush, headphones, bird plush, Discord Nitro 3 times, Kokichi wig, Kokichi figurine. Yeah, grand total $236. Nathan told me that was basically half his entire bank account. It also turned out that had the raid been successful, Zem's plan was to flood the server with explicit, not safe for work Sayoma content. So let me get this straight. So an adult wanted to flood a server full of minors with not safe for work content. What was the plan there? How was that trolling us? all that would have happened is that we would have taken some screenshots of Zem actually literally being inappropriate around minors, and then I would have banned him and probably gone to Tumblr with the screenshots. But all jokes aside, I couldn't understand it. Like, what had we done to Zemaroon to warrant raiding a server that was just minding its own business? According to Nathan, Zem was obsessed with the Amalgamate server and his hatred for it. Just to let you know, Zem would constantly crap talk you and the Amalgamate server. It's like I couldn't even get a single conversation without him talking about Amalgamate and how it's toxic and disgusting. And I know Nathan's not exaggerating about all of this, because for all the months leading up to this, I'd seen Nathan's status on Discord changing to various phrases like Zem and I, #1 Amalgamate haters, and things like that. Like several times a week for months. For the next few weeks, Nathan began sharing more details about what happened between him and Zem. And the things I saw were so much worse than anything I'd previously imagined. This is a 22-year-old in private DMs with a 14-year-old using racial slurs and talking about extremely explicit and aggressive sexual content. Let's see. F my arse. I mean, I can try near the end LMFAO. I hope you suck Kokichi's D. I'm gonna go M-bait. Just get inside me already. I hope you suck Kokichi's D. Save some for me. But wait, there's more. If I see one more N-word post below my art in 17 minutes again or 20 minutes, we're gonna have a problem. Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. That Zem gets really upset when other people share art in a server channel where you're meant to share art, because he doesn't want anyone else taking attention away from him, and he'll then call them the N-word. Which, by the way, if you're wondering, like, is Zem someone who could, like, maybe, like, you know, get away with that? Zem is Polish. Zem literally right at this moment lives in Poland. So no, this is not okay. Let's see, get blocked, N-word. N-words can F off. Minors shouldn't be on effing Discord, stupid N-words. It's a lot to unpack there. God darn, I'm so why? Oh, twice. After showing a lot of this to me, I told Nathan that is deranged behavior. Nathan replies, and he knew that I was a minor. Context for this one, I showed him fan art of Kokichi and he... Yeah, Zem said to Nathan that he came... I don't know if I've like, ever seen the N-word this many times in my life, like in one place. This is like... I just could not believe, and still cannot believe, what I was seeing. It would have been shocking all on its own just to see Zem using racial slurs like this, but to see him doing it so casually and constantly around a child was just unbelievable. Nathan told me it was absolute hell. The constant crap talking about you and the Amalgamate server, him not having a job, him getting mad over not getting attention after he just posted art, him going to server owners and blowing up their notifications about the smallest thing. Yeah, tell me about it. And him saying the N-word and slurs like crazy. He was so selfish, it's insane. He didn't even say a thank you for the Kokichi wig I brought him. Like nothing. That makes me so mad. On top of all the slurs, Zem had some rather questionable pet names for Nathan. Let's see. Hey baby, love you baby. What's wrong baby? Good night baby. I want you to feel better soon. I need to sleep now though. Good night, honey. I don't even know what to say here, except this is really, really weird and makes me really uncomfortable. Then Nathan showed me how Zemaroon had talked about the Amalgamate server to a 14-year-old. Zem said, I hope they genuinely effing cry themselves to sleep after the whole raid and think about how they made my life hell. What? They deserve to be effing raided. Thinking back on those people from Amalgamate, they still deserve to be raided. Jamie took everything I loved. Pardon? I circled the month in the screenshots to show you all that this was not like Zem having one bad day or something. This was a pattern of behavior that went on for months. For months and months and months and months. He was obsessed with a server that hadn't given him a second thought since his departure. And I just can't believe Zem put a child through months of this, exposed them to this level of hatred and vitriol towards a group of people who had done nothing wrong. And it wasn't just the Amalgamate server that Zem hated. Oh no, this is how Zem also talked about me. Me when I catch Jamie, me when I chase Jamie, me and gang unaliving Jamie. I hope Jamie loses all her followers. I want to watch Jamie lose followers real time, lol. Jamie can suck my chicken. Jamie can go F herself. This is my personal F you to Jamie. Jamie can suck on my effing D. He really likes that one, huh? Take the L, Jamie. I want Jamie to lose everything. How I pull up to Jamie's downfall. Personally destroy Jamie's house? I'd be praying for Jamie's downfall tonight. Good night. Jamie's getting crucified tonight. Jamie can suck on my D. Wow, that one just keeps coming up, huh? This is my F you to Jamie. Jamie is effing R-worded. If she thinks that this isn't harassment, we should just mass report Jamie. Jamie is the bad person here. F everyone else in that R-worded server. Yeah, so as you can see on top of the N-word, Zem's now using the R-word too. So Zem wasn't just using racial slurs around a child, but also ableist slurs too. Isn't that fun? No, it's not. Honestly, this is so sick. An adult spending months talking to a child about how badly he wants to sexually assault and unalive another human being. A human being who had done absolutely nothing to him. During the entire time Zem was talking about me like this, I had never spoken ill of him, never raised my voice about him, never said anything about him. The entire time that Zem was talking about wanting me to suffer and lose everything and perish, I'd been polite and diplomatic. I offered advice about Tumblr, told my server not to bully anyone, yet I'd been harassed for months about matters that were completely outside my control. I was made to feel like a villain for thinking it was inappropriate for someone with Zem's pattern of behavior to be friends with a child. I'd been made to feel like a monster for worrying about the safety and well-being of the people in my community. Zemaroon wore me out and broke me down and tarnished one of the most important days of my life. He left a stain on the entire experience. And what really sickens me here is that during this time, I'd made some very public announcements about how I was dealing with some severe mental health issues. I was not doing well, and Zem was celebrating, cheering for my downfall, hoping I'd lose everything. I never banned Nathan from the server because I was always hoping it would be a safe place he could return to if Zem hurt him. And apparently, Zem had Nathan reporting back to him all the times when I was struggling with my mental health because Zem enjoyed it when I was suffering. I even asked Nathan about it. I said, were those posts in response to times when I said I wasn't doing well or that I was struggling? Was he enjoying that? Nathan replied, I was pretty much his own little henchman to him and say to him, oh, Jamie is doing horrible today. And I was manipulated multiple times. And yeah, he pretty much laughed at the times where you were doing really bad. And I was pretty much forced to laugh too. This sick behavior. And it wasn't just me. Like Zemaroon talked about specific people in the server too and how he wanted them to no longer be alive. Some of the people listed here are minors. Yeah, F blank, and F Jamie. I hope they effing unalive themselves. I hope blank perishes in a car crash. Yeah, that the person censored at the end there is a minor. So, after months of discussing the situation and how to handle it, Nathan finally went through with his own call-out post, which, again, I've linked in the description of the video. I made sure to share the post in the Amalgamate server via a mass ping, and I also reblogged it on Tumblr with an abridged version of my story and the promise that I'd be working on the video you're currently watching. And I'm sure all this negative publicity was very scary for Zem, so about a week after the initial call out, he decided to post an apology on Tumblr, which you can pause and read here. I will also link it in the description of the video. I also mention that Zem tagged the Amalgamate Tumblr in this apology, but I ignored it because I was working on this video. I guess that bothered him because a few days ago he reblogged this apology and tagged me again. I guess Zemaroon really wants a response from me, huh? Okay, Zem, here's my reply then. Straight from me to you. I don't accept this apology. First of all, I heard through the grapevine that you had help writing this. In fact, I know who helped you write this, so I don't believe it's sincere. I don't believe it or find it adequate, and I shall explain why. On the surface, the apology seems fine, I guess. You acknowledge that you were in the wrong. You say the things you clearly think you're supposed to say. You know, you acknowledge that you made mistakes and caused harm and hurt people. You say you will take steps to prevent any of this from happening again. But the actions you described here are once again placing the responsibility on the minors. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm glad you're going to make an effort to not be in close proximity to minors ever again. But more so than saying you will take serious steps to learn and grow from this experience or take steps to better yourself and your behavior, you just tell minors to go away. And in case anyone thinks I'm being harsh here, this was Zem's banner on Discord the day he made this apology. Keep it classy, Zem. And the things you do say you'll stop doing around minors are so minimized here. You say you'll stop using slurs and offensive language and describe your words as nasty comments about a fictional character. There is no mention here of the many months in which you described sexually assaulting and unaliving me to a child. I'm not a fictional character. I'm a real person. The things you said about me, you described them in your apology as offensive and rude language. Offensive and rude? Are you effing kidding me? When you laughed at my very real suffering and talked about wanting minors in my server to no longer be alive, were those just rude and nasty comments? I feel like you genuinely don't understand the full scope and scale of the things you have said and done. This isn't a game, Zem. You say you won't get rid of the gifts Nathan sent you out of respect? You say that as if you're doing him some kind of favor. Zem, where was the respect for anyone at any point in all of this? You guilt-tripped everyone in my server for months. You had a tantrum because you got a free drawing tablet. You never even thanked Nathan for the gifts. And you're talking about respect? And you say the pet names were to make Nathan feel accepted and validated? What are you even talking about? That doesn't even make sense. You are literally making things up to save your own ass. You say you acknowledge that you did wrong, yet you keep talking about what you did as if you were doing this child a favor. Stop trying to minimize and justify your behavior. You say that when you met Nathan, everything was normal, but I think by this point in the video, I've made it clear that no, nothing was normal, Zem, at any point. Since the moment you first joined the Amalgamate server, you brought down everyone around you. You made other artists feel terrible about their art. You made people who were happy feel miserable. You showed no empathy or sympathy or respect for anyone around you. You trauma dumped on minors, tried to manipulate people into buying you gifts, and threatened to unalive yourself when things didn't go your way. It was never normal. You even said yourself that you'd already been kicked and banned from other servers already. It was never normal. You say, I am sorry if I have offended, hurt, and disappointed many people with all these actions. Zem, those words don't even cover a tiny fraction of a percentage of the damage you have done. You left a trail of bodies behind you over a year long. And you know what really gets me, Zem? The Tumblr banner you had the audacity to set up right before you tagged me a second time in your apology. Moving on, consider it too. Move on? You're telling us that after all this, we should just move on. Honestly, how dare you? Abusers do not get to tell their victims to move on. Victims decide when they move on, if they're ever even able to move on at all. Maybe you think this was all just a little oopsie you can just sweep under the rug, but you're wrong. Minimize and justify and jump through all the hoops you need to in your head to make yourself feel better, but at the end of the day, there's no denying what you did. You drained the life out of my server for months. I watched all the light leave the safe space that I worked so hard to build, and honestly, it never fully recovered. I never fully recovered. You used and abused everyone around you. You manipulated both adults and minors into attacking me and harassing me when all I'd ever done was try to write a story about hope, about the inherent goodness in most people, and I tried to build a community around that story, and you took that from me. Honestly, the nerve of you to say I took everything from you. No, Zem, you took from me. I offered you a place to share your art, and I platformed your art, and I invited you into this community. I tried to be kind and supportive, and all you did was hurt me over and over. I've spent this past year suffering in silence. I told no one any of this was happening, and now when I try to finish the next chapter of Amalgamate, it feels like a vital part of me is broken, and I don't know how to fix it. Amalgamate was such a magical experience for me. I've like never had a family or real friends or been part of a community. I've spent so much of my life in like solitary confinement, and Amalgamate was the first time I tried to reach through the bars of that cage just a little, and then people actually reached back, and suddenly it was like the whole world lit up around me. It was so bright and warm for the first time ever. It's like sounds were no longer muted. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's like I could finally hear laughter. I felt happy. And for the first time, I felt like maybe there was like a future for me, something beyond that little prison. But this past year, as Zem's toxicity crept into this community, it all began to rot. Laughter faded, the lights began to dim, people started leaving, and everything was suddenly so dark and cold and quiet. And it didn't feel safe anymore, so I just retreated to the corner of my little cell again. And now I try to write the story that I love so much, and that means everything to me. But you know what? It's really hard to write in a room without any light. But I will write, because I love Amalgamate, and I love Danganronpa, and I love the Danganronpa fandom. And even if the structure's cracked and broken, I still love what I've managed to build. And it's because of how deeply I love this fandom and my community that I do not accept your apologies, Em. You hurt so many people in the fandom. You abused the trust of a minor and emotionally harmed him and financially drained him. You dehumanized and manipulated both adults and minors. You tarnished a once-in-a-lifetime event for me. I doubt we will ever be able to get Melody, Fire, Ivan, and I in one place ever again. Momocon was so important to us, something we could never do again. And I spent part of it crying in front of them because of you. And I will never forgive you for that, Sam. Not even on my deathbed would I ever forgive you. You wrote up this statement or apology or whatever you want to call it, and you tell everyone to move on while demanding a response from me? And then you go back to posting on Tumblr and YouTube like nothing happened. Well, I won't let you just walk away from this. You are a danger to the Danganronpa fandom and artists and to anyone else you lure into your twisted little orbit. I know who you really are, Zem. I know that right now, despite everything I've said and everything I've shown, you think you're still the victim. You think I'm a heartless monster who's dehumanizing you, and right now you're probably thinking of all the different ways that you could scramble to defend yourself. Maybe you'll play the card. Nathan was a willing participant who said just as many terrible things as you did. You'll try to argue that at the end of the day, he still sent you the gifts of his own free will. And it wasn't you, right? It was other people coming to my DMs on your behalf. Well, I'm sorry, Zem, but Nathan is a child and you are an adult. Victim blaming him isn't gonna work here. Maybe you'll play the card that this was all my fault because I was an incompetent server admin and a failure as a community leader. And yeah, at no point throughout any of this was I perfect. I have a million regrets. And there are so many things I wish I'd done differently. I wish I'd kicked your pathetic ass out of my server the minute you started causing problems. But I didn't force your hand. I didn't make you say or do any of the abhorrent things that you did. This is all on you. Everything that's happening right now, you did this to yourself. You have nobody else to blame. And I swear to God, if you try to retaliate or escalate this situation again, I will make this so much worse for you. My online presence is a lot bigger than just Amalgamate or even Danganronpa. I can escalate this situation a hell of a lot more than you can. Trust me. F around and find out. This past year, you've made it clear, time and time again, that you think I'm some kind of pushover, but I won't ever let you make that mistake again. If you try to drag any of your victims' names through the mud or cause anyone even more emotional stress and damage, I will find out and I will escalate. I don't ever want to see you again. I don't want to ever hear from you again. I think you should do us all a favor and do yourself a favor and get offline. Go get some help. Those you've harmed deserve the opportunity to heal in peace. Everyone else deserves to know who you really are. If I can prevent even one more person from getting hurt, that alone might help me start healing. And I want to heal, and I want others to start healing. I'm not going to sit here and wallow in negativity or allow any of this to continue rotting away at this fandom that I love. No. I'm already working on turning the ship around. I'm working on chapter 21, and when I find myself driving it back into the dark place, I stop and think, and I'm thankful. I'm so very thankful to all of you, the fans of Amalgamate and the Danganronpa fandom as a whole, artists, the cosplayers, other fanfic writers, everyone, all of you. I'm sure Kaito would insert something really cheesy here about the stars in the night sky or something. And that's why I made this video. Despite my IRL gothic persona and spoopy cosplays, I despise drama and negativity. I'll usually do anything in my power to avoid it. But I care about all of you, and I don't want to see another person get harmed by Zemaroon. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if another person got tangled in his web because someone who could have warned them failed to do so. If you are a minor, please stay safe and always be aware of who you're interacting with online. If an adult ever makes you feel uncomfortable for any reason, run. Do not worry about hurting the adult's feelings. Just remove yourself entirely from the situation. Block, ban, do whatever it is that you have to do. And do not ever send money or gifts to strangers online, please. And if you're an adult, honestly, a lot of the same warnings still apply. As we saw in the video today, people over 18 can also be easily manipulated and taken advantage of by strangers on social media. I can't stress enough, minors and adults here, that if you're ever feeling uncomfortable around someone or like someone is encouraging you to do things you wouldn't normally do, just get out. I think a lot of people, again, both minors and adults, will often stay in stressful situations to avoid conflict. I know I do. I'm not being a hypocrite here. I'm well aware of this. But the problem is that that's how things escalate, the way that they did here. And that's nobody's fault but the abusers. It's just the unfortunate reality of the situation that the moment someone like Zemaroon realizes you'll let them twist your arm, they'll keep twisting and twisting until it hurts too much for you to fight back. That's why people like him are so dangerous. Unfortunately for him, I'm secretly a robot. But no, seriously, I know the risk of releasing this video. I know it could stir up even more drama that I don't want to deal with, but this had to be done for the sake of those who were hurt and those who might eventually end up hurt if someone doesn't do something, and honestly for myself too. I needed to do this. To everyone who's been so supportive of me the past couple months when I did finally start talking a bit about this, thank you so much. You all gave me the courage to finally come out of my shell and take a stand, and I truly couldn't have done this without knowing that there'd be people behind me to support me if things got ugly. I also want to say thank you to Nathan, who showed incredible bravery in breaking himself free from a really scary situation and seeking help. I don't think I would have had that kind of strength at 14. So Nathan, I'm really proud of you. And thank you to the person I referred to as F as well, who also had the courage to escape from them. Like, seriously, y'all, your apologies were so appreciated. I'm so glad that, you know, we can start moving past this. To everyone who's been supportive of me prior to when I started talking about this, even when signs started appearing this year that I was unwell, I appreciated your kindness more than you know. Thank you, Amalgamate fans, Danganronpa fans, and thank you so much for watching this video. Unless you're Zem, then no thank you. But everyone other than Zem, thank you for watching my video. And now, I'm gonna go make some Junko cosplay videos. Because this was a huge downer and I want to have some fun. What does someone do for fun when they're in a Junko and Oshima cosplay? Inflict despair. No, I can't do it. Just kidding.